That's interesting because I wouldn't say anything drew me to it. It's one of those things that even when I was a kid, I was making games. Like I was designing games. I made my first video game on a calculator, actually, a TI-85 calculator that could do the basic syntax. And I typed out, basically, there was this game called Drug Wars, and I made a clone of it because I was like, oh, I want to play this Drug Wars game. And so it's just sort of a thing that I've always done. And when I moved into it more professionally, it was interesting because I was interested in physics, and I was like interested in studying physics, but then I started getting into the physics engines of modern video game engines, and I was like, this is actually really intense physics simulation and stuff, and that sort of like set me on the way of like, teaching was one of those things that I've always really enjoyed doing regardless of the subject, you know? And so it was like, okay, I can actually really help people here. And so that kind of paved the way of saying I really value teaching, I really love video games, and there's a gap in resources for learning video games, so here's this perfect opportunity to teach people how to make games. Yeah, so the biggest challenge of translating user needs into actions, right, is that I'll talk to a lot of developers, like an event here, and I have to constantly remind myself that even all of the people I talk to here only represent a small percentage of all of the community, right? So it's really about gathering insights from many different regions, many different developer sizes, hobbyists to indies to mid-market to enterprise-sized companies to non-gaming companies, right? And finding that path that allows us to build tools that meet the greatest need across all of our different users, while also being feasible from a business standpoint. We are a business, right? And that's always the biggest challenge for me. For me, everything would be free and all the time because I love the tech and I don't really care. I think the entire idea of money is scary and it's all made up. None of it's real anyway. But the realities are we have to find a path that is a good business decision that is also a good solution for most of our users, right? And we try to tend to lean towards what's good for users as much as possible. Two completely different areas, right? So one is that, I don't know if you've noticed, but CPUs aren't getting any faster, right? We've maxed out CPUs until quantum computing becomes a thing. We're about as fast as we can get. So now it's about more cores and more this. So we have technology like Unity's burst compiler and entity component systems and things like that, which a way of thinking about it is almost like shaders for your CPU. It creates your data structures in your code in a way that's easily digestible for the CPU to create like massive performance gains and stuff like that. And so like that tech is so cool, and seeing people build crazy stuff with that is so cool. Yeah. That's one area, especially as like a programmer, that it really intrigues me. But the other area is this thing like what we call our vector AI. And I don't know if you've heard of that.
I did, yes.
Yeah. And one of the really neat things about vector AI is it helps people that monetize with like Unity's ad tech stuff to make better like returns on spend, right? To make more money. But the requirements to make vector AI better is more people using the engine. So in a way, it's the first time there's been an ad tech that actually incentivizes us to take the money the ads are making and directly invest it back in the engine. Because if the engine doesn't get better, people aren't using it, and so vector stops being effective. Inversely, if the engine gets better, more people use it, vector gets more effective. So it creates this virtuous cycle. And it's like one of the first times it's like the benefit of an ad tech actually directly benefits the engine tech. And it's no longer this like this versus them of like, oh, Unity only cares in ads so they can make money. Well, we have to make money with ads, so we make the engine better, so we make money with ads, so we make the engine better, and it creates this cycle that's really cool. So I'm excited about that, because I think that is going to be the future of the company in terms of like business model. First step is breathe. I always tell people who are first starting, because it can feel very exciting, to not be excited. Excitement is like, it's a dangerous emotion because it causes you to bite off more than you can chew, to think bigger than what you can achieve right away, and then you get discouraged and you quit. And I always tell people, especially at game jams and stuff, start small, build one thing, and don't start by saying I have this goal of learning to make games. Start by saying I have a goal of making a really smooth jump mechanic. Cool, and because that'll be way more satisfying. And be like, okay, now I'm jumping. Now I want to crouch, or I want to sprint. Now I want to have a hammer. I want to do this. I want to do that, right? And you incrementally improve, and then you go, okay, this whole thing is garbage. Throw it away. And now you start again, and it's better than ever before. And now it's and that is so much more satisfying than starting off being like, I'm gonna make Call of Duty, and then like getting a month in and being like, this is impossible, and quitting, right? So I think that is the hardest thing to do, is that self-restraint, but it's really the way to build a very satisfying learning experience.
Awesome.
That's a tough one. So, I mean, I would say that beginners are significantly more rewarding to teach, right? It's easier, and you build a thing, and they appreciate it. When you build intermediate content, all anyone ever wants to do is complain, which totally fine, because there's so many ways to accomplish a thing. I personally like to focus on what I call beginner plus. And what beginner plus is I approach new technology from the mindset of a beginner, so that beginners are able to learn it, but intermediate or advanced people also have something they can learn, right? And that way everyone leaves happy, right? Because if I talk about a brand new technology, and I know ray tracing isn't brand new, but let's just call ray tracing brand new, right? When it was. By teaching ray tracing in a way that's beginner friendly, beginners learn it, but veterans who have never used it are also beginners when it comes to that technology, so they have something to learn as well. So by trying to stay at the cutting edge of the brand new stuff and teaching it in a beginner friendly way, everyone's a beginner in that experience, and then there's something for everyone to learn. That whole thing kind of falls apart when it comes to like the next level of like integrating it into production solution stuff. And this is kind of what we talked about earlier. There's just a gap in that knowledge, and it's one that I'm definitely not qualified to fill, right? And it's challenging because the folks who can make that content are often busy making games. Even if they were to make this content, it would apply to one use case and not apply to most of the other ones. So it is a complicated, difficult thing to do. And honestly, I'd love to see more people find success in building intermediate or advanced content. So I think events like Global Game Jam are really important for innovation in two ways. So back when I used to teach, I used to make it mandatory for my students to participate in Global Game Jam in some capacity. Because I used to always say it's like an entire semester of college in a weekend. Right? It's like more real world experience built into 48 hours than your entire semester at this school, right? Because it has deadlines, it's working with other people, you actually have a goal that you're building towards, there's triumphs and failures, and it just teaches you a lot. So I think it's incredibly important for building experience and showing passion. Because a lot of times, especially when I hire folks, if there's a skill gap, they'll teach you the skills. What they can't teach you is that passion, is that drive, is that desire to be here. And the only real way to prove it is to show me the work that you've done. And I used to tell, like when I'd hire people fresh out of college, I'd be like, I don't want to see, I removed your education from your resume, I do not care. I don't want to see anything you built as part of your student portfolio. If you had to do it for a class, I don't want to see it. Because you had to do it, or else you wouldn't have graduated. And you were paying a lot of money, or depending on where you live, maybe you weren't paying money, but like, show me what you did out of passion, because you didn't have to, because you wanted to. Show me your game jams, your open source projects, just the things you did on the side. If this is your senior capstone, you could have done nothing on that team. Your team could have carried you. How do I know that? But if you show me something you've built, like that wasn't part of your schoolwork, it's something you built out of passion, even if it failed, I don't care, that's amazing. The second part of that answer, in terms of innovation, is we see so many amazing games come out of game jams, because game jams are an area where you can experiment with completely new mechanics, and it's fine. Worst case scenario, you're out a week, 48 hours a week. Binding Isaac was a game jam game. Super Hot, what came out of the 7-day FES jam.
Yeah, something like that.
Like so many of these cool innovative games come out of this because it's so, everyone's so risk averse, but things like game jams are an opportunity to learn new tech, to try new mechanics. And then you end up with this thing that you're like, there's no way this should work, but it works, and look how fun this is. Okay, now let's keep iterating on it, right? So indies are the lifeblood of the industry, and things like game jams and stuff is like the lifeblood of indies. I wouldn't say that we're preparing developers. I would say that we're learning what developers want and trying to build the tools that provide for them. I think we get into a lot of trouble when we try to proactively say, hey, developers, here's what you need, right? Here's what you should value, what you what success means to you. Like, we've gotten in a lot of trouble over the years doing that. And instead, we're in a position now where we're saying, developers, how do you define success? What do you need? What is it that you want to do? And then we learn from that and start providing the tools. So I'd say we're doing very little to prepare our developers for it. And instead, we're finding the gaps the developers want us to fill, and we're filling those gaps. And then obviously documentation and things that teach them how to use the stuff. But I would say that, like, we don't want to prepare people for industry trends. We want to effectively support industry trends with our tools. Oh, that's a good question. So, I mean, you've got your core. I mean, mobile's not going away. Mobile is massive. Everyone has a phone. You've got a phone right here, right? So mobile isn't a new platform, though. So if we're talking about new platforms, right, I think web is going to be the next hot thing. I don't think it's going to disrupt PC or console or mobile, but I think it's going to elevate to that level. Because if you think about it, like with web GPU, I can have applications that run with access to CPU and GPU and dedicated hardware and stuff like that through the browser. So I can have like better experiences, better games, like cool graphics, interactive and all that stuff. But I won't have to install the game, right? I just have to go to the website and play it right then and there, which is a massive reduction to the barrier to entry, right? And so all of a sudden we're going to have like real great gamer experiences, but like more hardcore gamer experiences without having to install anything through the browser. That's massive. That's how we started with Flash games, right? You used to just hop on the browser and open up a website and look at all these games that you're playing. And now imagine, like, we're just back to that, but the games are better and they're amazing. They're built with these modern tools and stuff. So I think web is really going to take off, even more so as a platform than it already is. The ability to make an entire library of games available without any installation, stuff like that, is just such a massive power play. So I think that's going to be the next big platform along with everyone else. Oh man, that's a tough one. I'm so not a business guy, but that feels like a business answer, right? Because the obvious is like stick to it, right? But the reality is always find a niche, find a core mechanic that's interesting and unique, and find a grassroots organic way to market it. Because right now, marketing channels are owned. And by that I mean, you have to pay to play, you have to have lots of money to get anyone to ever see your game, right? And unless you're starting with a lot of money, you're never gonna compete in traditional marketing avenues. You have to find new and innovative ways. You know, maybe 5 years ago that was Twitch streamers and grassroots Twitch streamers. But now that's such an owned market as well, because now Twitch streamers require $20,000 to do a promo, and so then it becomes like TikTok and like some of these other like more meme level marketing. So niche gameplay and unique, interesting, organic marketing strategies is really the way, I think. And you know, finding a way to create a library of things and finding which markets and which devices really find that satisfying, right? Because not every mechanic works everywhere or on every platform, right? So that would be my advice. But I'll couple that with saying, like, incredibly difficult. And back when I made games, this wasn't as much of a problem, right? Like the hardest part about making games when I made games was making games. Now the hardest part about making games is marketing the games. Making the games is easy now. Well, it's not easy, but you know what I mean. Like, but the tools make it significantly easier. So that's a skill area that I've not had to develop, fortunately, for myself. But of the studios I see the most success that are smaller, they do so through like partnerships with the community, right? Bringing them along with you, devlogs and stuff like that. Yeah.
Mike, thank you for the interview. It was such a pleasure.
Absolutely.